Hi, everyone. This is Holly Hamilton here again with you this week, Director of Meteorology at the Turks and Caicos Islands Airports Authority and the Turks and Caicos Islands National Weather Service, bringing you the tropical weather briefing today, October 4th, which will be valid through to next week. So looking at our surface analysis, we have pressure ridging coming across the area, the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. We have a low pressure here over the Atlantic. Um, and then we have Hurricane Kirk out here in the central tropical Atlantic and Tropical Storm Leslie in the eastern tropical Atlantic. Now, looking at our satellite imagery, we see um, pretty much clear skies, just maybe some few scattered showers, but with that high pressure ridging, pretty quiet weather conditions over our area here. We see Hurricane Kirk out here at sea and Tropical Storm Leslie. And then there's a little bit of a low pressure system in the Gulf of Mexico, and we see some disorganized showers and thunderstorm activity associated with that. So looking at our tropical weather outlook, um, we have Hurricane Kirk, Tropical Storm Leslie, and then this area of interest in the Gulf of Mexico right now that has a medium potential or medium chance of development through the next 7 days. So just quickly recapping on or looking at Hurricane Kirk, we're looking at the National Hurricane Center official track forecast here. Um, we have Hurricane Kirk here as a strong Category 4 hurricane right now, and um, we're anticipating that it will keep its major hurricane status for a couple of days and then begin to weaken as it gets up into the cooler waters and and associated impacted by some shear. The track pretty much keeps it out to sea. It's going to recurve around that subtropical ridge that's over on the Azores, and it was remiss of me not to point that out on the surface analysis. But there was a high pressure system over here, the subtropical high pressure sitting over here in the East Atlantic. And so Kirk is going to recurve around that and then um, interact with the mid-latitude westerlies or the jet stream and just get taken out to sea and further up into the northern Atlantic. And then Tropical Storm Leslie, that's way down south here, is going to continue on this northwesterly track. And we're expecting it to become a hurricane by tomorrow or tonight even. And it will keep hurricane intensity as it moves northwestward into the Atlantic. And similarly to Kirk, it's going to recurve around that subtropical ridge. So again, we're expecting Leslie to stay out to sea and not really impact land. And then finally, that area of interest that I pointed out earlier that has a medium chance of development, um, area of low pressure, there's expected to develop um, and then move across and interact possibly with a frontal boundary and then move across the Florida Panhandle. And even if it manages not to interact with that frontal boundary, um, there's a chance that it could develop into a subtropical or tropical depression or storm early into next week. But we'll be monitoring that situation. But even if it doesn't develop into a tropical cyclone, um, there is a decent chance that a lot of heavy rainfall or rainfall in this area will this area here due to that system. So looking into the next 5 days, the winds and waves. Here again, we see the high pressure ridging across the area. We see that low pressure in the Gulf, Hurricane Kirk, Hurricane Leslie out here in the tropical Atlantic. We're looking at mostly gentle to moderate breezes across the area. And we're going to start seeing seas, and this is the 24-hour forecast. So this is Saturday morning. We're going to start seeing an increase in seas as Kirk starts to recurve and large swells start to generate from Hurricane Kirk. So we're looking at potentially 5 to 8 feet in terms of waves in northeasterly to easterly swells along Atlantic exposures. And so that will activate a small craft caution for us in Turks and Caicos, especially along those Atlantic exposures right here. And then going into Sunday, as we see Hurricane Kirk moving northward and accelerating northward as it starts to interact with those westerlies, we still see that high pressure ridging. So for the most part, weather will be pretty favorable. We might have some showers here and there, but winds are pretty light, gentle. But again, seas increasing as those large swells are being pushed from that strong Hurricane Leslie Kirk. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Hurricane Kirk, due to its strong intensity and its large size. So we're looking at waves of 6 to 8 feet along Atlantic exposures, and that will activate a small craft advisory. So we would want small craft operators to really be careful, especially along the Atlantic exposures going into this weekend. So as we go into next week, we're going to start seeing the seas start to die off a little bit. Looking at waves at 4 to 6 feet, we see that cold front, that frontal boundary dropping down lower. We see the indication of that low pressure slowly developing in the Gulf of Mexico. And Hurricane Kirk is now pretty much out of our scope. And Hurricane Leslie, now expected to become a hurricane, is moving northwestwardly. And here again, you see Hurricane Leslie. And going into Tuesday, still favorable weather conditions, light winds, and seas gradually dying off. And this is expected, oops, this is expected going into midweek. So with that, and just in summary, with the high pressure ridging, we're not expecting too much in terms of weather. We have Hurricane Kirk and Hurricane Leslie, but they'll be staying out to sea and not really creating any significant impact to land. But in terms of sea, see some rough seas due to large swells being generated by Hurricane Kirk. So we want our boaters and beachgoers to be safe along those Atlantic exposures going into the weekend. And so with that, I wish you a pleasant and safe weekend, and we'll see you next week with the next tropical weather briefing.